This is like your third appearance. At this point, you're just hogging. You're just hogging the show. Third time.
I just love being here with you, Ryan. So you give me the opportunity to hang out with you, I'll say yes.
I love it. What's interesting is like every time you and I connect, and the last time was in real life, which was incredible. I rewatched that episode and it's really well shot. There were so many lessons learned. And the real thing is like every time I walk away from one of our conversations, I'm like, man, I just learned so much. That's like the longest way of saying thanks for making your third appearance.
Well, thanks for being my friend, Ryan. I need friends.
I literally, you know what? I'm not going to take us down that tangent right now, but I had Alana on the podcast this morning. I literally talked about you and the genuineness of the relationships that have like come from these things. So thank you for being a friend. And it's been great knowing you for the last couple of years, which has been awesome. All right. What we're here to talk about is you've got an event coming up, and I won't steal the thunder of what this is. It's a cohort of sorts, but talk to me about this event, because I want to get into maybe one or two of the things very specifically of like some of the things people are going to take away from when they attend.
Well, so I created this Stay Curious Mastery cohort, and I call it Mastery because that's what it's about. How do you master becoming an EOS implementer? EOS is very good at teaching you how to deliver sessions, having the format, having the material, having the brand. But the reality is, once you get your first 5 clients, there's a lot to going to build the business. And that's where I shine in scaling things up. That's my preference in life. And as a result, I created this Stay Curious Mastery cohort. And it really was an outgrowth of the fact that I always have an apprentice on my team in New York, and other people wanted to be apprentices from other parts of the world. And that was not an option geographically. So we created a cohort to sort of recreate the apprentice experience, but virtually, well, physically in person for a while, but mostly through a virtual cohort experience.
Yeah, I love that. And like this isn't your first rodeo. You've had some incredible people that have gone through this and have gone on, were already great humans and have gone on to do huge things. Rodney, Justin times too. I think you had Justin Cook and Justin Mink, but you've got some incredible people that have gone through this. When you think about like the takeaways, like I always think about things in 3 uniques. Like EOS just like infiltrates my life at this point. But like the 3 uniques, and when you think about somebody that's coming into this cohort, which is upcoming in Denver in August, like what are some of those takeaways? You talked about some of the problems. When they walk away, what are they taking away from the cohort?
Consistently, we've been told they have much greater confidence in their ability to deliver sessions. They don't feel stuck with the idea of, well, how do I just deliver this session purely? They walk in the session and say, how do I deliver a session that gets the client what they need from their business? Because every client sort of opens a session with a different set of issues. They're related to the EOS model, but you have to meet the client where they're at. So the confidence to actually meet the client where they're at, that's number one. So confidence. Number 2, the ability to sell in a different way. This is not a business development cohort, but the idea is you're going to just show up differently and you're going to go build a business. I say, pick the life you want and then let that being your EOS life, and make sure your EOS practice supports that EOS life, as opposed to just randomly taking clients all over the place, jumping on a plane and stressing yourself out, hoping the connection makes it there. That to me isn't my EOS life. And I want people to go build their EOS life. So we put some infrastructure in place to do that. And then the third thing is, with 1,000 EOS implementers out there, I think everyone needs to have a personal brand. So we built a whole course, whole component around personal branding, and think about how you present yourself to the world. And so found that to make a huge difference.
I love that. And listen, I'm not getting in trouble on this podcast and getting into the purity of EOS. I will tell you, this is from personal experience. And when we grew and scaled Hunt to Killer, the hardest thing when we were self-implementing was trying to follow the process to a T. And we were like, we're a consumer product business. We've got different, like it's just different and operates differently. And shout out to Margaret Dixon, who was able to meet us. You just said something so key, like able had the confidence to meet us where we were to be able to solve our challenges. And sometimes I realize this might be an unpopular topic, but sometimes it means like being able to modify, enhance, do things a little differently. And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to is like the confidence to show up, be yourself, and meet the client where they're at. Is that summarized in the most cryptic way ever?
Well, first of all, I don't really care about getting in trouble. So that's one of my favorite things. So it's okay. We're not going to get in trouble. If we get in trouble, I'll take the flack. Secondly, we say that 15% of delivering EOS is about how the content is structured, and 85% is about the magic of facilitation. So yeah, we're going to try to follow the agenda. We're going to try to use all the tools as designed. We're going to try to make it look as described in Traction. And then the reality is everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And every session we walk into, we get punched in the face. So we better be able to facilitate, just like Margaret did for you. Margaret's a star. And having an implementer who can do that for you and still understand and at the end of the day land the plane and it still looks like EOS. That's really what mastery looks like.
When you talk about like this magic, you talk about this confidence. And then one of the other things you talked about was this idea of like first building the life you want. And then it sounds like, unlocking the practice, unlocking the business to facilitate or achieve the life that you desire. What are some things that an EOS implementer would be experiencing right now where they're like, I need to be a part of this? It's like, this is happening or this is happening or this is not happening. Like, what are those things where you're like, hey, that's why you got to come here?
They thought getting another client was going to make them happier because they were going to make more money first. They continue to say yes, often to the wrong people. They lie to themselves that someone's a lead when in fact they're not. So, we have happy ears and we're like, oh my God, that person's going to start with me. I can count on them. And I'm just like, well, that client is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating per Joe Polish. And we are not going to work with hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating clients.
The example that you just gave there of like, oh, this person's going to close, this person to close. That's me. Like you just basically described my entire persona. So Alana's like, you say 100% of the clients are going to close. I would say she's like 80% there, and I'm like 20% there because I'm like a yes to everybody. Sounds like I need to join your cohort, which we're sponsoring. So I'm excited to not participate, but come for lunch and hopefully learn some stuff. We've been talking about this a lot internally, which is like identifying the right clients out of the gate. So when you talk about like, saying yes to the wrong clients and it maybe may not making your life better or taking you to where you want to go, like, do you have a criteria or do you have like a checklist? Like, how do you think about or how do you advise consultants, EOS implementers on like when to make the hard decision to say no to a prospective client?
So what we have is a target market client. So target market is, look, it's like 10 to 250 employees, $2 to $50 million in revenue. Growth oriented, open minded, appreciative, frustrated, want help, willing to learn, generally privately held. That's what EOS looks like. So first and foremost, you have to say that. And a lot of times it's a psychographic issue. You're like, I just saw that guy kick his dog. Like when I walked in his office, like if he kicks his dog, he's going to kick me because the greatest predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So don't lie to yourself when that's happening. And, my target market is slightly different. Like, I'm like, can I do something that's really hard and I'm going to grow and I'm going to learn from the business? And it's probably 25 to $500 million. And it's not a traditional EOS implementation. It may require negotiation skills, or I call it embedded advisor skills. But I have 1,500 sessions, so I just want to do different things at this point. So don't lie to yourself about what a good client looks like. If you don't want to work with lawyers, don't work with lawyers. Just because they called you and they wanted to work with you doesn't mean that's going to make an ideal client. And then you're stuck with them for 2 years. It's like you took the Hippocratic oath, the Hippocratic EOS oath, and now you have to help them fix their business. And they don't want to be compliant. So you're like, this is terrible.
What's interesting about what you just said there, I just talked to Alana about this, and it was this idea of like how much you have to invest. We basically just recorded a podcast on how to activate, manage, create a partner channel. And we talked about the amount of investment that you have to make, because everybody wants instant results and they want it now. And it's like, if it's not working, then move to the next thing. And we, frankly, like we almost did that. And the hardest thing that we talked about was like saying no. And especially like when you're saying no, when you need it. And I guess what I'm getting at there is, when you're in the moment where you don't need it and you said no enough times and you've got like the perfect client base, you're like, this is how I drew up the plan. And the hardest part is when you're in that suck zone of like, you don't have enough clients, you're saying yes to everybody. But you and I both know that the more you say yes to the wrong clients, the more time that you're investing into the wrong clients and not getting what it is. And so I guess like, how do we convey to people of like, because it's a big leap of faith. Like, how do we convey to people that like, yes, you're saying no now, but it's going to open up the space, the capacity, everything for the life in the future that you want.
Saying yes now is like putting more on your credit cards and not paying the credit cards off monthly. You're going to pay the price later. You're basically mortgaging your future freedom. It's not easy. It takes discipline. But the reality is, like, I would just rather say no now and have fantastic clients in the future who I love working with and have lots of fun with.
When you talk about like saying no now, and you talked about this a little bit earlier of like, you get to 5 clients, you're like, oh crap, like now I've got a real business or real practice. I've got something I really have to manage at this point. What does that growth journey look like? Like you talked a little bit about like, yes, this is not a necessarily like, growth hacking your practice. That's not the concentration. It sounds like your cohort, the program that you put together, is really the holistic approach. Like, what do you want out of life, and how are we going to kind of build this practice around your own goals? But a little bit on that growth strategy of like, someone's at 5 or someone's at 7 and they want 15 to 20 active clients. Like, what are some of those tips and tricks to help them think through how to start to grow their practice?
Walt Brown says, why do people stop doing what's working? Because it's working. So the idea here is, I think of an EOS practice like it's like a little rowboat. You're like rowing this little rowboat, and you can only row it so fast. Like, I don't have any, those super crazy outboard engines on it where I can pour jet fuel or racing fuel right in it. But like the growth hacking is like, oh, let's pull jet fuel in. You might blow an engine. In an EOS rowboat, you're just like rowing the boat. If you follow the practice and you follow the process and you find the right clients, great work begets great work. You actually, if you do great work for someone, you'll get 3 more clients. You just don't know which clients are going to refer, but you just have to keep your head down and focus on doing great work and focus on having great relationships, and it works. And stop thinking that you can go to take an Instagram course over the weekend and just charge people for the same crappy template.
Yep.
Don't be a page turner, is what we say. Most people at this point look at it and say, well, I can turn the page myself too. That's not what I need. We have part of our pledge says, don't be a page turner.
I love it. I just talked to Derek Smith, my former co-founder, Hunt to Killer, Run for Your Lives. We were talking a few weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, are you like worried right now with like AI and like there's going to be no such thing as entrepreneurship and everything else?" And I'm like one thing that's remained consistent, regardless of innovations and technologies and everything else, it's like the people that are focused and like consistently executing against a common goal, like those are the people that are successful. It's not the person that's like chasing the next shiny object or moving in 1,000 different directions. It's the people that are incredibly focused. And that's kind of what I heard you just say there, is like, you say yes to the right clients, that get you more clients. You do great work, you focus on these things and you consistently do it over a long period of time, and you will be successful.
And you create a moat for yourself, because you can't do 1,500 sessions with the ability to pull skills from all sorts of things. That's why we say, EOS purity. I'm like, sometimes there's this hostage negotiation skill I need in session that isn't interaction. That's facilitation skill, or some tool that I learned somewhere else that my client would need. So we do it. But I think it creates a moat. It's a pretty big moat. And I think having confidence in knowing who you are. So like Rodney, I'm like, Rodney, you're like world-class coach. Just lead with it. I'm like talking to Chris McCarty. I'm like, you are a professional golfer. Go play golf with CEOs and make sure they have their best golf game of their life playing with you, and they need you as their coach.
I love that. And that kind of goes back to your earlier thing of also like being yourself, like bringing yourself into the session room. I agree with you with Rodney. Chris, I was just texting yesterday. I think I'm taking him as a part of the Denver trip. I'm going to take him out to play some golf. I don't know if you play golf, but I'll take you out too. Talk to me about like, when is the cohort? How do people register? Give the details.
So the cohort is August 19th in Denver, the day before the EOS QCE. We have dinner the night before. Someone might get lucky and sit next to you and drink some good wine. So on the 18th, we have dinner. The 19th, we have an all-day cohort. The EOS QCE is on the 20th. The link to the cohort we'll put in the show notes, but it's staycuriousjbs.com. And then it's staycurious-cohort. So that's where you can actually find details for it. And if you want to transform your life and transform your practice, it's the right place to go.
There it is. There it is. If you want to learn more of this, show up. If you want to meet JBS, show up. And then if you want to have, you said wine, sit next to me on the bus. We won't listen. We can only talk about so much stuff about that bus.
The bus is always going to have a stripper pole. So
you just don't care. Okay. All right. JBS, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Ryan.
Appreciate you.
See you, buddy.